The makeup room was silent except for the soft humming of fluorescent lights above the mirror. Olivia sat still, gazing into her reflection, her fingers paused in the middle of applying foundation. She leaned in, narrowing her eyes. There it was again, just beneath the concealer, a faint crease on her left cheek. She touched it gently. Was it new, or had it always been there? She pulled back, exhaled slowly, and tilted her head. The lighting here was flattering, soft and golden, the kind that made everyone look like a movie star. But she knew, beneath the filters, behind the professional lighting, there were signs, little ones, subtle, but undeniable. The door creaked open behind her. 15 minutes, Olivia, came the assistant's voice. They're getting ready to mic you up. Olivia forced a smile through the mirror. Thank you. When the door closed again, she placed the compact back on the table and stared into her eyes. Green, sharp, lined with years of fire and finesse. She had built an empire from scratch, a skincare company that now appeared in nearly every high-end store across California, with product lines endorsed by influencers, dermatologists, and the occasional B-list celebrity. But now she was 42, and the cameras were less forgiving than they used to be. Behind her, a framed photo hung on the dressing room wall. It was from a shoot 5 years ago, Olivia, glowing, laughing, holding up her signature serum like it was a golden elixir. She looked radiant, limitless, untouchable. But that photo had appeared on the cover of a major health and beauty magazine. The headline had read, "The face that needs no help." She closed her eyes. Backstage, Michael was waiting for her. He always waited. He was the calm presence behind the whirlwind of meetings, spotlights, and back-to-back events, a civil engineer who had willingly paused his career to raise their 2 children and support Olivia's rise. He looked up from his phone when she stepped out. "Hey," he said, smiling. "You look luminous." She smirked. "It's one of the words I picked up from your ad copy," he teased. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. They walked side by side toward the set. She looped her arm into his, gently. "Do you think I'm changing?" she asked. He looked at her, surprised. "Changing how? Like my face? The way I look?" He paused, scanning her carefully. "I think you look like a woman who built a brand out of nothing, raised 2 great kids, and still manages to smile through 80-hour work weeks. That kind of woman doesn't age. She evolves." She didn't reply, but she held his arm a little tighter. Later that night they returned home. The house was quiet except for the sound of Luke's laughter coming from the upstairs room where he was probably watching cartoons past his bedtime. Abby, their 16-year-old daughter, was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "Mom, you were trending on TikTok," Abby said, not looking up. "Your skin looked airbrushed." "Brr." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "That's a compliment, brr." "I mean, yeah," Abby said, shrugging. "You looked really young, like freakishly young." Eichel chuckled. "Your mom's secret weapon is sunscreen and sarcasm, bar. BB rolled her eyes. They settled in. Olivia stepped into the downstairs bathroom, turned on the side light, and studied her face again under neutral white light dopper. T was there, brar, hat line. ND another one near the jawline, dopper. He exhaled slowly, brar. Hat night. Lying in bed, she stared at the ceiling. He could feel Michael's steady breathing beside her, the way his hand always found hers in his sleep. The warmth of it used to comfort her. Tonight it only reminded her of time. He whispered into the dark, "What happens when the face of the brand doesn't fit the brand anymore?" Eichel stirred. Nothing," she said quickly. "Go back to sleep, brar." She couldn't. The next morning, Olivia sat in her home office, surrounded by samples, packaging mock-ups, and vision boards. Her assistant had sent over the quarterly analytics. Sales were up, engagement was high, and the latest YouTube campaign had exceeded targets. Everything was moving forward. All she could think about was the faint comment on a beauty blog. Is it just me, or is Olivia starting to look tired? He hated that word. He opened her laptop, typed in the search bar, "Non-surgical facelift options 2025 BR." Flood of results appeared. Threads on Collagen Threads, PDO lifts, ultrasonic tightening, peptide cocktails. She skimmed through them, heart racing slightly, brr. Instant lift in 30 minutes, brr. No downtime, no scars, back to work same day, brr. Here it was, bruh. Oven Aesthetics, Beverly Hills bar, cleared. Celebrity endorsed, 5 stars. Photos of women before and after. The transformation was stunning, bar. He leaned back. Bar. Hat was the harm? Ate her that week. During dinner she brought it up. Bar. It's a routine thing. Just a new rejuvenation treatment. Non-invasive, she said, slicing into her salad. Michael glanced up. Like a facial? Sort of, she said carefully. He frowned. You sure? You've always said your brand stands for real results, no tricks. This isn't a trick, she said quickly. It's preventative. Smart. I mean, the company is growing. I'm getting more exposure. If I don't maintain the image... He set his fork down. You already are the image, Liv. You don't need to chase something you've already got. She sighed. Maybe I just want to feel like I'm ahead of the curve, not scrambling behind it. He reached over and touched her hand. Just promise me one thing. What? Don't let them convince you that your worth is only skin deep. She smiled. I won't. But something inside her wasn't so sure. That night, after the kids were asleep, and Michael had dozed off in the living room with the TV still playing softly, Olivia sat on the edge of their bed with her phone. She zoomed into an old photo of herself, taken on her 35th birthday. No filter, no edits. Her smile wide, her eyes alive. There were lines even then, but they looked natural. She clicked back to the aesthetic clinic site. She tapped the book consultation button. The confirmation pinged in her inbox instantly. And so it began. The lobby of Coven Aesthetics gleamed like a luxury jewelry showroom. Glass chandeliers sparkled overhead, refracting soft golden light across marble floors and polished countertops. The scent of something botanical and expensive lingered in the air. Lavender, perhaps, or rosewater infused with vanilla. Olivia adjusted the collar of her cream-colored blazer and stepped inside, heels clicking softly. She didn't tell anyone she was coming here. Not Michael, not even her assistant. A young woman with impossibly smooth skin greeted her at the front desk, beaming with the kind of friendliness that was just slightly rehearsed. Welcome to Coven Aesthetics, Ms. Walker, she said. We've been expecting you. Please follow me. Your consultant is ready. They passed by several serene treatment rooms where women in silk robes lay with cucumbers on their eyes, machines humming gently in the background. Olivia tried not to stare. Everyone looked content, ageless. Her consultation room looked more like a penthouse lounge than a clinic. Plush white chairs, velvet curtains, soft lo-fi music playing from invisible speakers. A tall woman in her 50s, impeccably dressed and confidently poised, stood to greet her. Olivia, she said warmly. I'm Dr. Emery. It's a pleasure. They shook hands. Olivia's palm felt slightly damp. I've read a lot about you, Dr. Emery continued. Your brand is phenomenal, and frankly your skin is already in beautiful condition. Olivia gave a tight smile. Thank you. I try to take care of it. Of course you do, but you didn't come here just for flattery, did you? Olivia appreciated the directness. I guess. I just want to maintain what I have. Maybe tighten a little. Get ahead of the signs before they become too obvious. Dr. Emery nodded, already flipping through her tablet. You're the ideal candidate for what we call the Harmony Thread Lift. It's non-surgical, minimal downtime, and uses bioabsorbable collagen threads. You'll walk out of here lifted, contoured, and yes, visibly younger. Olivia tilted her head. No scalpels? None. A few tiny punctures with a cannula. Local anesthetic. The threads stimulate collagen over time, and they naturally dissolve in about 6 months. Results last up to 18. And it's safe? FDA cleared. I've done this procedure on newscasters, actresses, even 2 senators' wives. Dr. Emery paused, then added, one of our clients is launching a skincare line next quarter. She's looking for a face for her campaign. If all goes well, perhaps you'd be open to being featured. Olivia's heart skipped. Me? Dr. Emery smiled. You're a brand. But more than that, you're real. Women trust you. And after this, well, let's just say you'll be the embodiment of what you preach. The flattery landed differently this time. It wasn't shallow, it was strategic. Dr. Emery leaned forward, her tone softer now. We all deserve to feel aligned with the reflection we see in the mirror, Olivia. And when your business depends on image, it's not vanity, it's investment. Olivia swallowed. Her fingers found the faint crease near her jaw again. I'd like to think it's still me people trust. It is, Dr. Emery said gently. But it's okay to want a version of you that matches how you feel inside. There it was, the sentence that clicked. The version of you that matches how you feel inside. Olivia imagined waking up tomorrow, looking into the mirror, and seeing the confident, sharp, unstoppable woman she still felt herself to be. Not the slight shadows under the eyes. Not the exhaustion from years of building an empire while raising 2 children. Not the micro-judgments in anonymous comments online. She nodded slowly. When can we do it? Dr. Emery smiled. We have an opening tomorrow morning. That night, at home, Olivia stood in the master bathroom brushing her hair, eyes fixed on her own reflection. Michael entered behind her, yawning as he pulled off his tie. How was your day? He asked, placing his phone on the nightstand. She paused. Productive. We got a batch of samples from the new lab. Abby texted me during math class to say she hates calculus. Luke apparently ate glue at school. Michael chuckled. Another normal day in the Walker household. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and kissing her shoulder. You good? She nodded, hesitating for just a second too long. He caught it. What's on your mind? Just a lot of meetings coming up. I need to be camera ready. Always. Michael looked at her in the mirror, his expression tender. Liv, you're always camera ready. She tried to smile. You have to say that. Husband code. No, I don't. I just say what I see. She turned, resting her head against his chest. Would you love me if I looked different? She asked softly. He stiffened, only slightly. What do you mean? Like if I had scars? Or aged faster? If I didn't look like me? I'd love you if you were bald, toothless, and tattooed from head to toe, he said, chuckling. Then more seriously, I love you, Liv. Not your lookbook. She held him tightly, but her mind had already wandered back to the clinic. The morning of the procedure, Olivia woke before sunrise. The house was still, bathed in soft gray light. She moved quietly, trying not to wake Michael. He stirred briefly as she slipped on a long sweater and tiptoed to the bathroom. She looked at her reflection for a long moment, not with fear, with anticipation. By 8 o'clock, she was back at Coven Aesthetics, reclining in a treatment chair lined with fresh linen, her hair wrapped in a disposable cap. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and essential oils. A nurse prepped her skin with cool alcohol swabs, while Dr. Emery marked subtle guidelines on her face with a violet-tipped marker. We'll focus on the mid-face today, the doctor explained, especially the cheek area. I'll lift along the natural V-line, very subtle. You'll feel a slight pulling sensation, but no pain. The word lift echoed in Olivia's mind like a promise. Within minutes, local anesthetic numbed her cheeks. She closed her eyes as the procedure began. Delicate insertions, thread by thread, guided into place with care and precision. She imagined each one like scaffolding, holding up the version of herself she wanted the world to keep seeing. 35 minutes later, it was over. She sat up slowly. Her face felt tight, but not painful. A faint tingle buzzed beneath the surface of her skin, like an invisible net had been woven just under the dermis. Dr. Emery handed her a mirror. Take a look. Olivia inhaled. Her face was different, slightly fuller in the cheeks, the jawline more defined. Her skin looked luminous, lifted, not plastic, not frozen, just restored. She ran her fingers gently over her cheeks, afraid to press too hard. It's still you, Dr. Emery said, reading her mind, but refreshed. Imagine waking up like this every morning. Olivia smiled. It felt new, it felt dangerous. On her way out, the receptionist leaned over and whispered, By the way, you look incredible. Seriously, like movie star incredible. Outside, the California sun greeted her with its usual warm brilliance, but it felt brighter today, as if the world was noticing her in a new way. Even the valet did a double-take before opening the door to her car. At home, Michael was in the kitchen making pancakes for the kids. He turned as she walked in. Hey, he said. You're back early, she shrugged casually. Just a little facial refresh. He studied her. You look well-rested. That was a lie, and they both knew it. But it was the kindest version of the truth. Abby came down the stairs and stopped mid-sentence. Whoa. Mom, did you do something? Olivia raised an eyebrow. Why? You look like you just came from a red carpet or something. She waved it off. Good lighting, maybe, but the comments didn't stop. Her assistant noticed during their Zoom call. Did you change your skincare routine? You're glowing. Even her business partner asked if she had started using new filters on her live streams. The effect was instant, intoxicating. Olivia floated through meetings, calls, and even a podcast interview, basking in the attention like it was sunlight after weeks of gray. The compliments were soft at first, subtle, then bolder. You've never looked better. You don't age, do you? What's your secret? And always, Olivia smiled with practiced modesty. Just good skincare. And water. But something inside her shifted. A quiet voice whispered, "You did it. You beat time. You made the right choice." Later that week, she was invited to be interviewed for a major online beauty journal. They wanted new press photos. She agreed instantly. At the shoot, the photographer paused midway through, lowering his camera. "Whatever you're doing, Olivia, keep doing it," he said. "You don't just look great, you look like you believe in yourself again." She swallowed hard. That night, in bed beside Michael, she stared at the ceiling again. Only this time, her thoughts weren't clouded by doubt. She was winning. She was being seen. She was back. Michael reached for her hand in his sleep, just like always. She held his tightly, then glanced over at the faint glow of her phone charging on the nightstand. She opened the camera and turned on the front-facing lens. There she was, lifted, perfect, undeniably beautiful. And yet, behind her own eyes, just for a second, something flickered, like a shadow darting across a lit hallway. She blinked. It was gone. 2 weeks passed. Olivia was, by all external measures, thriving. The new campaign had launched flawlessly, featuring her front and center in bold colors, radiant lighting, and confident angles. The feedback online was overwhelming. Comments flooded in under every post she appeared in. "You look like you've reversed time. This is what 42 should look like. Olivia Walker, are you aging backwards?" She read each comment with quiet satisfaction. At first, she would simply smile and move on, but soon she began lingering on them, letting the words sink in like honey on warm bread. Sometimes, late at night, she scrolled through them more than once. She justified it as market research. Her team noticed the shift too. During board meetings, she was more energetic, more assertive, less hesitant about approving bold campaigns, riskier product pitches. Her assistant started referring to her as boss too. Even her walk changed. There was a bounce now, a subtle lift in her posture, as if her body had absorbed the message her face was sending. "I am untouchable again." Michael noticed the difference. Over breakfast one morning, he glanced at her from across the table. "You seem lighter," he said. She looked up, still reading emails on her tablet. "Lighter? Like you've let go of something heavy?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe I have." Luke, sitting beside her with syrup on his chin, piped up, "Mom looks like a princess now." Abby rolled her eyes but said nothing. Later that afternoon, Olivia hosted a private lunch event for select influencers and press contacts. The venue was an upscale rooftop garden downtown, complete with white roses, gold accents, and personalized goodie bags. Olivia wore a pale blue pantsuit, understated but sleek, her hair pulled back into a soft chignon. Her skin glowed, and the dress code may as well have read, "Try to look as polished as Olivia." As she circulated the tables, posing for photos and answering questions, she felt the buzz of attention wrapping around her like silk. She was magnetic again, every eye drawn to her, every compliment reaffirming the decision she had made. "You're glowing," someone whispered. "Your jawline is insane," another said. "I didn't even recognize you. Are you sure you're 42? She laughed, modest but knowing. "Just taking care of myself." A journalist from a lifestyle magazine pulled her aside. "Off the record, have you done something? You look surgical." Olivia kept her expression neutral. "Just good skincare and a lot of hydration." The woman leaned in. "Well, whatever it is, don't stop. You're redefining middle age." Those words echoed in Olivia's head all evening. When she returned home that night, Michael was already in the kitchen, helping Abby with a school project. Olivia kissed the top of Luke's head as she passed, but her eyes lingered on Michael. He looked tired, his shirt was wrinkled, and his hair was still damp from a quick post-gym shower. He smiled when he saw her, but it was a weary smile. "Big day?" he asked. She nodded, setting her purse down. "The campaign's catching fire. We might double the projected impressions by next week." He walked over and touched her cheek gently. "You're working a lot lately." She leaned into his hand. "It's worth it." Michael didn't answer. That night, as she stood in front of her bathroom mirror, removing the last traces of her makeup, she saw the faintest flush on her cheeks, skin pulled just slightly, a residual tension from the threads beneath. But it looked good, tight, firm, perfect. Still, she touched the spot where the cannula had entered near her hairline. It felt faintly raised, just a pinprick, nothing serious. The next morning, during a photo shoot for the upcoming holiday line, the creative director paused mid-frame and stared at her closely. "Olivia, look this way again. No, just tilt slightly. Yeah, right there." He lowered the camera. "I have to say, something about your face is different, in a good way. Did you change your diet or something?" She smiled smoothly. "Clean living and collagen masks. Well, whatever it is, you're nailing every frame. Let's keep shooting." As the flash clicked around her and the stylist adjusted her collar, Olivia closed her eyes for just a moment. It was working. All of it. The lift, the glow, the illusion of control. She was sculpting perception, and the world was applauding. But somewhere deep inside, buried beneath layers of validation and filtered images, there was the quiet knowledge that she hadn't exactly told the truth. Not to Michael, not to the press, not even to herself. But the truth could wait. The spotlight was warm, and she wasn't ready to step out of it. The following week, Olivia's schedule was relentless. Morning meetings bled into brand shoots, which rolled into interviews and late-night calls with partners in New York. Her calendar was packed, color-coded, and running like a well-oiled machine, just the way she liked it. But amid the buzz, there were moments, small ones, like when she washed her face one evening and noticed a subtle flush on her left cheek. Not a natural glow, a strange warmth, faint but present, or when she applied moisturizer and winced, just slightly, as her fingertips brushed over a tightness that hadn't been there before. A tingle that lasted a little too long. She dismissed it. Healing takes time. The threads were still doing their work. The doctor had said mild sensitivity was normal. Still, the next morning, as she was applying light makeup for a breakfast meeting, she caught herself pressing a little too hard on one spot near her cheekbone. It sent a dull ache rippling toward her temple. She paused, then dabbed more concealer over the area and moved on. Michael, always observant, noticed her wince during dinner that night. "You okay?" he asked, passing the salt. You touched your face like it hurt." She blinked. "Oh. No, I think I just slept funny. It's nothing." He studied her quietly. "Are you sure?" Olivia offered a practiced smile. "Don't worry, just tired." Luke was busy building a tower of green beans. Abby scrolled her phone without looking up. The conversation shifted. But Michael didn't forget. 2 nights later, while stepping out of the shower, Olivia felt her foot slide unexpectedly. The slick marble tile beneath her offered no traction, and she stumbled forward. Her shoulder hit the glass wall with a soft thud, but it was the sharp edge of the porcelain sink that caught her, right on the left side of her face. Pain flashed through her like lightning. She clutched her cheek, swearing under her breath as she sank to the floor. For a few seconds she just breathed, palms flat against the cool tile. Michael rushed in, his voice taut. "Olivia, what happened?" "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Just slipped. I'm okay." But when she pulled her hand away, there was a pinkish smear on her palm. Her cheek had started to swell. Michael crouched beside her, examining the area. "You hit your face? It's just a bruise," she muttered, brushing him off. "I'll ice it." "Let me see," he said, gently turning her chin. The skin was already red, slightly raised. It pulsed faintly under his touch. "I think we should get this checked." "It's nothing, Michael. I don't need to make a scene over a bump." "You're not making a scene. You're hurt." She pulled away, grabbing a towel. "I said I'm fine." His eyes narrowed, but he didn't press further. The next morning the swelling had gone down slightly, but the area remained warm to the touch. Olivia dabbed on foundation, adjusted her lighting, and went ahead with a pre-recorded live stream for a new product launch. On camera, she smiled effortlessly, her voice smooth and confident. No one could see the way her cheek throbbed beneath the surface, or how the weight of the foundation on that one spot made her wince every time she turned her head. After the live stream, her assistant knocked lightly. "Hey, just so you know, marketing wants to reuse the footage for the spring teaser. You looked amazing." Olivia nodded, then turned away, jaw clenched. In the mirror backstage, she studied her face closely under unforgiving white lights. The left cheek was off, slightly puffy, still a little red, and now, when she smiled, there was a faint tightness that pulled unevenly, barely noticeable to others, but not to her. She reached for her phone and snapped a close-up. Zooming in, she could almost trace the path of the thread beneath the skin, a subtle ridge, like a line drawn just under the surface. She blinked, then locked the screen. It was probably nothing. But later that evening when she kissed Luke goodnight, he pulled back and asked, "Why is your face warm, Mommy?" She paused. "What do you mean?" "Your cheek. It's hot." Olivia laughed it off, tousling his hair. "Just mommy stuff." But when she stepped out into the hallway, Michael was standing there, watching. "Liv," he said quietly, "I think it's time we talked about what's going on." "Burr," she folded her arms. "Nothing's going on." "Burr," he stepped closer. "You've been in pain for days. You winced brushing your hair. You jumped when Abby touched your shoulder. You barely sleep." "Burr," she said nothing. "And now Luke says your face is hot to the touch?" "Burr," she looked away. "It's post-procedure. It's expected." Bar Michael's voice softened. "You said it was non-invasive, that it was safe." "Bar, it is," she snapped. "This is normal." But even as the words left her mouth, they felt empty, mechanical. She turned toward the bathroom, already rehearsing a message to Dr. Emery in her mind. But deep down, the warmth in her cheek was no longer reassuring. It was starting to burn. The first prescription came from a walk-in clinic near the studio. Olivia had slipped in between meetings, wearing sunglasses indoors and a silk scarf pulled strategically over the lower half of her face. The physician barely looked up from his clipboard as she described a mild facial inflammation from an old skin reaction. He glanced at her for a total of 20 seconds, nodded, and wrote her a prescription for antibiotics. Should clear up in a few days, if not, come back. She didn't go back. The pills worked, at first. Within 2 days, the swelling in her cheek receded, the pulsing heat dulled. She felt more herself again, or at least more like the image she was fighting to protect. Michael noticed. "You're looking better," he said, setting 2 mugs of tea on the kitchen counter one evening. "Thanks. Just needed rest." But she wasn't resting. She was working harder, longer, fighting the creeping anxiety that something underneath her skin was spiraling out of control. She doubled her skincare regimen, iced her face nightly, drank collagen smoothies until she couldn't stand the taste. Anything to reassert control. The peace lasted 5 days. Then, just as abruptly, the warmth returned, this time deeper, more insistent. The outline of the thread beneath her cheek felt harder, less like collagen absorption and more like resistance. She called the clinic again. Another round of antibiotics, this time a stronger dose, same cycle, relief, then rebound. By the 3rd time, the swelling subsided slower. The area around her cheekbone had developed a faint redness that no concealer could fully hide under harsh lighting. During one meeting, a junior marketing exec asked if she had a rash. Olivia excused herself to the restroom, locked the door, and stared into the mirror. The left side of her face looked wrong, not terrible, not disfigured, but wrong. It felt alien. She washed her hands and splashed cold water on her skin, trying to soothe the growing panic. Her phone buzzed, an email from Dr. Emery's office. She had contacted them earlier, vaguely describing recurring inflammation and asking for a consultation. The response was polite, professional, and completely useless. Due to high demand, Dr. Emery is currently booking appointments 6 to 8 weeks out. We encourage patients with urgent concerns to visit their primary care provider or localer. 6 to 8 weeks. She couldn't wait that long. When she returned to the boardroom, Michael was sitting in the back row, flipping through campaign proofs. She caught him watching her, his brow furrowed. That night he confronted her again. "Liv," he said gently, "I think we need to see a real doctor, a specialist. I told you it's just sensitivity." She replied, avoiding his eyes. He moved closer. "You're avoiding mirrors. You wear scarves in the house. You flinch when I kiss your cheek." She opened her mouth to respond, then stopped, because it was true. Michael's voice dropped. "I don't know what you're hiding, but I'm starting to worry it's more than just a bad reaction." Olivia turned away. "I'll handle it, by pretending it's not happening. By managing it, like everything else in my life. I don't need a rescue." His silence lingered in the space between them. She walked to the vanity, pulled out her phone, and flipped to the front-facing camera. The swelling had returned again, slightly worse than before. There was a new bump just below her cheekbone, small but firm to the touch, not puffy, not irritated, firm. Michael was right behind her now, watching over her shoulder. "What is that?" She quickly turned off the screen. "Nothing. It doesn't look like nothing. I said I'll deal with it." "But you're not," he said, his voice steady. "You're hiding it. From me, from everyone." She met his gaze in the mirror. Something in her eyes flickered. Defensiveness, fear, exhaustion. "Do you remember what they used to call me?" she said, her voice low. "The face of honesty. The woman who didn't need help to stay beautiful. I built my whole brand on that." Michael didn't answer. "If this gets out," she continued, "I lose that story. I lose trust. I lose everything." He shook his head. "No, Liv, you lose that illusion. But not everything." She looked down, then whispered, "What if I don't know who I am without it?" Michael stepped forward and touched her hand gently. "I do." She didn't respond. Not that night. Instead, she lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the faint pulse of heat growing beneath her cheek, and for the first time she was afraid it might never stop. 3 weeks later, the pain was no longer subtle. What began as warmth had turned into heat. What was once a faint pressure now throbbed with each heartbeat, radiating from her left cheekbone like a signal flare. The bump beneath her skin had grown firmer, angrier, more defined. By now, Olivia had developed a routine of preemptively numbing the area with ice before applying makeup, blending concealer with surgical precision to avoid triggering the pain. But no amount of contouring could mask the truth from her anymore. She was losing control. Her third round of antibiotics had failed. Each temporary relief came with diminishing returns. The flare-ups returned faster, stronger, and more stubborn. She had begun waking up with mild fevers, low-grade but persistent, and a gnawing tightness in her jaw that made chewing difficult. At night, she pressed her face into cold compresses, hoping to tame the pulsing under her skin long enough to get through another day. Her assistant, normally discreet, had started asking quiet questions. "Are you feeling all right? You look a little tense." Olivia would smile and deflect, offering vague lines about being overworked or lacking sleep. But it wasn't working anymore. Not really. She could see it in their eyes. Everyone sensed something was off. And Michael? He had stopped asking questions. That was worse. He watched her in silence now, his concern no longer wrapped in words, just the deep, quiet disappointment of someone who felt shut out. It was Abby who broke the tension one night at dinner. "Mom," she said, frowning, "your face looks swollen, like, not normal swollen." Olivia froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. "I'm fine," she said quickly, too quickly. Abby looked between her parents. "Are you sure? It's red, and kinda puffy." Michael reached across the table. "Let me see." "I said I'm fine," Olivia snapped, standing up so quickly her chair scraped the floor. She left the table, marched straight to the downstairs bathroom, and locked the door. Under harsh vanity lighting, the truth revealed itself without mercy. The skin over her cheek was flushed, taut, and slightly shiny from internal pressure. When she pressed gently around the area, a thin line of yellowish fluid welled up from a tiny opening near her hairline. She recoiled. An infection. Her stomach dropped. The phone in her hand trembled as she dialed the clinic. Dr. Emery's number was still saved in her contacts, but she hadn't dared call until now, not directly. The receptionist's voice was calm, but firm. "Dr. Emery is fully booked for the next 5 weeks. I can put you on a cancellation list, but it's not guaranteed." "This is urgent," Olivia said, trying not to let her voice crack. "I think I have an infection under one of the threads, possibly more than one." "I understand, ma'am, but I'm afraid we can't. I need someone to look at this, today." A pause, then a new voice on the line. Another physician at the clinic, not Dr. Emery, but a surgical specialist. He listened quietly as Olivia described the symptoms. When she mentioned the drainage and facial heat, his tone shifted. "Mrs. Walker, based on what you're describing, this sounds like a serious localized infection. You'll need imaging to confirm, but there's a strong chance the threads are the cause." Olivia gripped the counter. "What do I do? If the threads are embedded too shallow or weren't properly sterilized, they can become infected and cause tissue breakdown. You're at risk of abscess formation." She swallowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said gently, "we need to remove the threads, all of them. Immediately." Her mind blanked. "No, that can't be the only option. If left untreated, this could lead to facial tissue necrosis, scarring, worse." She stared at her reflection. The lifted cheek, the contoured jawline, the carefully constructed image she had built, not just physically but emotionally, professionally, was crumbling. If we remove them, she whispered, what will happen to my face? There was a long silence. We'll do our best to minimize trauma, the doctor said carefully. But you should prepare for swelling, bruising, possibly scarring. It depends on the extent of the infection. Olivia's legs buckled. She sank onto the closed toilet lid, gripping the phone like it might vanish from her hand. I need time, she said. I wouldn't recommend waiting more than a few days, he replied. The longer the threads stay in, the greater the risk. When she emerged from the bathroom, Michael was waiting in the hallway. He didn't say anything, just opened his arms. She stood frozen for a moment, then stepped into him, her head resting against his chest. I think I messed up, she whispered. Michael exhaled, holding her tighter. I know, and neither of them said what they were both thinking. It might already be too late. Olivia didn't schedule the removal. Not that week. Not the one after either. She told herself she was waiting for the inflammation to go down, that she needed more time to assess, to research alternatives, to talk to Dr. Emery personally, anything to avoid the image she couldn't bear to hold in her mind, a scalpel slicing through her skin, pulling threads out like unraveling stitches from a delicate garment, her face. Instead, she doubled down on home remedies. She soaked gauze pads in chamomile and placed them on the swelling. She ordered an expensive infrared mask that promised healing and cellular rejuvenation. She applied every anti-inflammatory serum in her line, layered meticulously, hour after hour. For a few days, the infection seemed to stall, the pain quieted, but one morning, as she brushed her teeth, Olivia noticed something that stopped her cold, a discoloration. Beneath her left cheekbone, the skin had darkened, just slightly, like a shadow that hadn't been there before. When she pressed on it gently, a thick, yellowish fluid oozed from the same tiny hole near her temple. She dropped the toothbrush into the sink. Behind the bathroom door, she heard Michael's voice calling the kids down for breakfast. Normal sounds, family life, the world still moving. She pressed tissue to her face and stared at herself. Then came the smell, faint but unmistakable. It wasn't just infected, it was festering. She canceled her morning meeting, texted her assistant a vague excuse about a family emergency, and retreated to the bedroom. For the rest of the day, she lay in bed with the blinds drawn, phone silenced, refusing even Michael's quiet knocks. He didn't push. But by evening he had had enough. When she finally emerged, hair messy and face bare, Michael was standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, tension radiating from his posture. Olivia, he said quietly, you need to go to the hospital. She didn't look at him, just reached for a glass of water. You said that last week, he continued. And the week before, you're getting worse. It's under control, she muttered. No, it's not. There's an open wound on your face. You're hiding it from everyone, including yourself. I'm not ready. What are you waiting for? He snapped, louder than she had ever heard him. For your skin to rot off? For your nerves to be damaged permanently? Is that what it's going to take? She recoiled, as if he had struck her. He stepped back immediately, running a hand through his hair. I'm sorry. I can't keep watching you do this to yourself. I didn't do this to myself, she whispered, voice shaking. I was trying to stay relevant, for the company, for the image, for everything we built. And what are you now? He asked, not cruelly but brokenly. What's left of that image? Silence. You won't even let Abby look at you anymore, he continued. Luke asked me if you were sick. I didn't know what to say. She stared at him, her throat tight. I thought I could fix it, she said. I thought if I just waited it out. This isn't a brand crisis, Liv. This is your body, your health. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. And I'm scared. She blinked quickly, trying to force the tears back. I don't want them to see me like this, she said. Not the kids, not the press, not the clients. I can't be ruined. Michael's voice broke. You're not ruined. She looked away. I don't know who I am without this face. Then let's find out together. Her shoulders shook as she finally let the tears come, collapsing into his arms. I'm sorry, she murmured. I'm so sorry. I know, he whispered, holding her tighter. That night, Olivia lay in bed, awake long after Michael and the kids had gone to sleep. Her face throbbed with every beat of her heart. She could feel the infection now, deep and settled. A foreign body her immune system could no longer fight. She scrolled through her camera roll, photo after photo of herself over the past few months. Glowing, lifted, perfect, lies. She opened the health app on her phone and dialed the surgical clinic. I'm ready, she told the receptionist. Book me as soon as possible. I don't care which doctor. I can't wait anymore." Her voice trembled. But for the first time, it didn't sound weak. It sounded like surrender. And maybe that was what healing actually began with. Not control, but surrender. The operating room was cold, clinical, and indifferent to status. No matter who she was, or what empire she had built, Olivia lay under the same sterile lights, draped in the same blue surgical linens, heart hammering beneath the paper gown. The surgeon, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and gloved hands, had explained everything twice: risks, scarring, nerve exposure, possible asymmetry. His tone was calm, practiced, and unwavering. Olivia barely heard him. Her gaze had stayed locked on the reflection in a small stainless steel tray beside her, a warped, blurred version of herself. Michael was in the waiting room with Abby and Luke. She hadn't wanted the kids there, but Michael insisted. "We'll be here. For whatever you need," he'd said, holding her hand until the nurse gently pulled it away as they rolled her down the hall. Now, as the anesthesia took hold, her final thought was not of her face, or her brand, or her image. It was of Luke's voice the night before, whispering, "Will Mommy still look like Mommy?" Then, darkness, she woke to pain. Not sharp, not screaming, but dense, heavy, a weight pressing in from inside her face like something had been carved out and not yet filled back in. Her left cheek throbbed with every pulse, and there was a deep soreness radiating toward her ear and jaw. She blinked against the brightness of the recovery room. Michael was there. He stood up the moment her eyes opened, his face pale and drawn. "Hey," he said softly, brushing her hair back. "You're okay, it's over." She tried to speak, but her lips felt stiff. A nurse appeared beside her with ice packs and a straw. "Let's take it slow," the nurse said. "No mirrors for now, all right? You've got some swelling and the dressing will come off tomorrow." Olivia nodded slightly, but the fog in her mind was already receding, and something darker settled in its place. When the nurse stepped out, she reached blindly for Michael's hand. "Was it bad?" she whispered, voice hoarse. His hesitation answered for him. "The infection was deeper than they thought," he said gently. "There was an abscess under the cheekbone. They had to cut wider to remove all the material, but the doctor said they were able to clear it. It's going to heal." She closed her eyes. "But not the same," she said. "No," he admitted. Honestly, she didn't cry, not then. The tears came later at home, when the bandages were removed and she saw herself for the first time. The left side of her face was visibly different. The swelling had gone down slightly, but what remained was unmistakable. A slight hollowness under the cheekbone, a subtle but undeniable asymmetry between the left and right sides, and worst of all, a thin, jagged scar near her temple, no longer than 2 inches, but deep enough to catch light. She stood in front of the mirror for 10 minutes, silent. Michael hovered nearby, unsure if he should speak. When she finally turned to him, her voice was a whisper. "It's gone." He stepped forward. "What is?" "The face people believed in." He shook his head. "That's not what people believed in." She stared at her reflection. "Yes, it is." He reached for her hand. "Not the people who matter." That night, Olivia didn't eat. She didn't answer emails. She didn't speak to Abby, who knocked gently on her door. She didn't even check the news or scroll through social media, 2 things she'd once done religiously, like prayer. She simply sat at her vanity, eyes fixed on the mirror, tracing the line of the scar with her fingertip. It burned, not physically, but in her soul. By the 3rd day, the bruising had turned yellowish green. The swelling was down, but her self-image had collapsed entirely. She refused to turn on her camera during calls. She canceled interviews. Her assistant fielded media inquiries with vague statements about a health issue and personal time off. The world outside kept spinning, and Olivia remained still. Abby finally reached her breaking point on the 5th day. She burst into the room, holding Olivia's old press photo in one hand, the one from her first magazine cover. "I miss this mom," she said, "not the face. The one who smiled, who taught me to not care what other people thought, who told me that beauty wasn't everything." Olivia looked up, startled. Abby's eyes brimmed with tears. "You used to be brave. You used to laugh. You're still here, but you're not you." Michael appeared in the doorway, silent, letting his daughter speak. "I don't care what your face looks like," Abby said, "but I care that you don't believe in yourself anymore." And just like that, something cracked inside Olivia. The dam broke. She wept, not quietly, not politely, but fully, openly. With years of pressure and fear pouring out in ragged sobs, Abby rushed forward and hugged her, wrapping arms tightly around her mother's trembling body. Michael joined them, his arms folding around both of them. Luke peeked in and climbed into the pile without a word. For the first time in weeks, Olivia let herself be seen, not as a figure, not as a face, but as a human being, flawed, broken, but loved. The healing at first was not physical. The stitches were neat. The inflammation reduced daily. Her doctor was pleased with the progress. The scar would fade, he promised, though not disappear entirely. But Olivia didn't ask about the scar anymore. She had stopped measuring her recovery in millimeters of swelling, or the way light caught the edge of her cheek. Instead, she began noticing things like breath, how deep she could finally inhale. Sleep, how it returned in longer stretches. Touch, how Michael's hand felt on hers again without her flinching. After the night she broke down in front of her children, something in her had shifted. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't even clear at first. But the next morning she opened the blinds. She made breakfast, burnt the toast, laughed, and let Luke squeeze honey directly onto his eggs because it's more fun that way. She sat beside Abby at the kitchen table and listened, really listened. As her daughter ranted about a history teacher's unfair grading, she looked Michael in the eye and didn't look away. And later that afternoon, for the first time in weeks, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, not to assess damage, not to conceal flaws, but simply to exist. She studied her face like a map she was just beginning to read. There were the familiar roads, the arch of her eyebrows, the slope of her nose, the shape of her lips. But there were new ones too, a fine scar near her temple, a faint asymmetry, a softness in her expression she hadn't seen in years. Not weakness, gentleness. By week 2, Michael suggested something unexpected. "I think you should talk to someone," he said, setting down a cup of tea beside her one quiet evening. "Not me, not the kids. Someone who's trained to help you sort through all of this." Olivia didn't answer immediately. She had never gone to therapy before. She had always been the one who solved the problems, who coached others, who built structures and systems and schedules. She didn't crumble. She recalibrated. But this time, she knew recalibration wasn't enough. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll try." And so, the following week, she began sessions with Dr. Evelyn Carr, a trauma-informed therapist with decades of experience and a calm presence that filled the room like soft music. Their first session was mostly silence. Evelyn waited. Olivia blinked hard, fingers twisting in her lap. When she finally spoke, the words came in fragments. "I used to be someone." Pause. "I used to know what people saw when they looked at me." Another pause. "Now I don't even know what I see." Evelyn nodded gently. "And that's where we begin." They talked about identity, perception, control, the fear of invisibility, the hunger for approval, the lies women tell themselves just to maintain an image they never created, Olivia cried. She also laughed, surprised at how many walls she'd built, how tightly she'd gripped a version of herself that no longer fit. Between sessions, she read books on aging, memoirs from women who had survived disfigurement, disease, public shame, reinvention. She took notes. She highlighted paragraphs. She scribbled questions in the margins. At night, she and Michael talked in bed, really talked. He told her about the helplessness of watching her suffer. She told him about the terror of letting herself be seen without armor. They made love again, slowly, awkwardly, tenderly. It wasn't about beauty. It was about presence. Olivia started spending more time offline. No makeup, no filters. She posted a photo of her hand holding Abby's, captioned simply, "Healing happens here." The comments were different this time, quieter, more real. One woman wrote, "Thank you, I've been hiding my own scar for 3 years." Another said, "You helped me believe I could be loved again." She read them all, blinking back tears. She didn't respond, not yet, but something inside her whispered, "You're still here." And that's enough. It was a Tuesday morning when Olivia made the call. She had stared at the number for 10 minutes. No script, no press officer, no brand manager in the room. Just her, barefoot in the kitchen, hair unbrushed, coffee half cold, heart racing. When the producer from the reel table picked up, Olivia didn't hesitate. "I'm ready," she said. "I'll tell my story, but on my terms." The response was immediate, an exclusive interview, live taping, no pre-record, no filters. America's most watched women's talk show. It would air coast to coast. Her PR team panicked. Lawyers raised eyebrows. Shareholders questioned timing. But Olivia had already made her second, and bigger decision. She wasn't returning as CEO. She drafted the resignation herself. No ghostwriter, no fluff. I built this brand to help women feel confident in their skin. Somewhere along the way, I betrayed my own. Now I choose truth over polish, healing over profit, humanity over vanity. She hit send, then deleted the draft of her return post from Instagram, the one her team had begged her to use. Airbrushed, smiling, angle perfected. Instead, she uploaded a single black and white portrait, her face bare, lit only from one side, the scar faint but visible. Caption: "This is the real me. Still healing. Still here." Then she turned off notifications. The day of the interview, she wore no foundation, just a linen blazer, simple earrings, and a quiet fire behind her eyes that hadn't been there for months. The producers had wanted to open with a montage of her greatest brand moments, magazine covers, TED Talks, red carpet appearances. Olivia declined. "If people are here for a performance," she said, "they're watching the wrong episode." She stepped onto the stage like a woman walking into her own skin for the first time. The host leaned in gently. "Olivia, you've been gone for a while. Where did you go?" She smiled, slow and honest. Inside, a pause. To the part of me I'd ignored for years. The part that wasn't flawless. The part that cried in the dark. The part that wanted love more than likes. The audience went silent. "What happened to your face?" the host asked, not cruelly but directly. Olivia nodded, ready. "I tried to cheat time, and it cheated me back. I underwent a cosmetic thread lift, non-surgical, they said. Painless, they said. What they didn't say was that if your body rejects the threads, it can rot you from the inside out." Gasps. "I didn't just lose symmetry," she continued. "I lost weeks of my life. I lost sleep, sanity, and the illusion that beauty was my currency." The host blinked, visibly moved. "And what did you gain?" "A beat. Myself." Olivia turned toward the audience now. "I used to think I needed to be perfect to lead. That I had to maintain an image so other women would trust my products, my vision, my authority. But the truth is, perfection is a prison, and I locked myself in it willingly." She let that sit, and then I almost let it kill me. Tears welled in the eyes of strangers. I missed birthdays. I pushed away the man who's loved me through every version of myself. I avoided mirrors because I didn't want to see the lie staring back. She looked down at her hands, then back up. But here's what's wild. When I finally broke, when I finally told the truth, my daughter hugged me like I was her hero. My son said I looked happy again. My husband held my scar like it was something sacred. A ripple of emotion moved through the room. "I don't want to be the face of anything anymore," Olivia said, her voice steady. "I want to be the voice that tells other women, you are more than your age, more than your bone structure, more than your followers. You are not a product." She leaned closer to the mic. "And no procedure, no serum, no thread can give you the kind of beauty that forgiveness does, especially when that forgiveness is for yourself." The host sat back, speechless. The applause was quiet at first, then louder, then standing. Olivia didn't smile for the cameras. She smiled for herself. That evening, after the episode aired, her inbox flooded, not with brand deals, not with endorsements, with stories, from women, from daughters, from men whose wives had quietly suffered, from mothers afraid to age, from teenagers terrified of growing into someone society might one day label too much or not enough. They weren't asking for beauty tips. They were saying thank you, and for the first time Olivia didn't feel the urge to filter anything. She sat on the back porch with Michael, sipping tea in silence, the cool night air brushing her cheeks. He looked over at her. "You did it." She shook her head. "I undid it." He chuckled. "Either way, you're still the strongest woman I've ever met." She rested her head on his shoulder. "You know what's funny?" she said softly. "I lost the face I built, but I think I found the one I was born with." He kissed her temple, "And I love every line of it." She smiled into the dark, not because she had arrived, but because she had come home. The community center was nothing like the studios Olivia used to speak in. No polished marble floors, no perfectly angled lighting, no glam squad waiting behind the curtain. Just folding chairs, worn carpet, and the faint hum of a vending machine in the corner. And yet, this was the most important stage she had ever stood on. Outside, the parking lot overflowed with women, some in business suits, others in yoga pants, one still in her nurse scrubs. The flyer had simply read, "A conversation about healing, beauty, and the truth we hide. No please reply, no VIP list, just a promise." And Olivia kept promises now. She stepped up to the mic, wearing jeans, a black sweater, and not a single drop of makeup. Her hair was pulled back, the scar on her face was visible, faded but present, unapologetically real. The room quieted as she began. "I used to think being beautiful meant being unbreakable," she said, her voice calm but resonant. "That if I could control every wrinkle, every flaw, every headline, I could control how the world saw me, and maybe, just maybe, how I saw myself." Murmurs of agreement moved through the crowd like waves, but then I broke, and the only thing that saved me was the truth. She paused, letting the silence breathe. "A few months ago I sat in a hospital bed after emergency surgery to remove cosmetic threads that had caused a serious infection. I had tried to lift my face without surgery, without risk, I thought. What I didn't know was that the real risk wasn't medical." She looked directly into the front row, where a teenage girl sat holding her mother's hand. "The real risk was forgetting who I was beneath the surface." A woman near the back sniffled. Another wiped her cheek. "I lied to people I loved. I avoided my own children. I hid behind scarves, filters, and fear." She took a deep breath. "But when I finally stopped hiding, when I showed them the scar, the brokenness, the weakness, they didn't turn away. They leaned in, a beat. They didn't love the perfect me, they loved the real one." She stepped forward, her voice steadying, "And so I stopped pretending. I stepped down from the company I built. I turned down TV deals, brand contracts, cover shoots. Because none of that is worth your health. None of it is worth the hollow ache of losing your own reflection." A hand rose. The woman was in her 60s, short silver hair, no makeup. Her voice was steady. "How did you forgive yourself?" Olivia smiled quietly. "I didn't. Not all at once." Laughter rippled gently. "I started by forgiving the version of me who didn't know better, who was terrified of aging, who thought love was something she had to earn with youth." She looked out at the room, every eye locked on hers. "Then I forgave the woman who lied to stay relevant. And finally, I forgave the woman who broke, because she had to, in order to be rebuilt." A younger woman stood now. Her hands trembled as she spoke. "I had filler last year. They told me it would fade in 6 months, but it migrated. My smile looks different now. I haven't smiled in photos since." Olivia stepped down from the mic and walked toward her. She didn't say a word. She just reached out and took her hand. The woman broke. Tears fell silently as they hugged in the middle of the room. No spotlight, no music cue, just human connection. When they finally pulled apart, Olivia said softly, "You still smile, I see it, even now." The woman nodded, sobbing. The room for a moment became something sacred. Later, in the final minutes, Olivia returned to the front. "I want to leave you with something," she said. "Not a product, not a pitch, a truth." She pulled a folded paper from her pocket. "This is what I wrote the night I decided to speak out. I wasn't sure if I'd ever share it, but maybe one of you needs to hear it." She unfolded it and began to read. "Your face is not a promise you owe the world. It is a map of where you've been. The smile lines, they mean you laughed. The crow's feet, they mean you saw beauty. The scar, that means you survived." She looked up, eyes gleaming. "Don't erase the evidence of your living. Wear it." The room stood. Not because she was famous, but because she was honest. And honesty, it turned out, was the most beautiful thing she'd ever worn. That night, Olivia sat in her backyard under a sky full of stars. Abby sat beside her, curled up in a blanket. Luke was already asleep. Michael came out quietly and handed her a cup of chamomile. "Your phone hasn't stopped buzzing," he said. "I know," she replied. "You going to answer them?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe tomorrow." He nodded, then looked at her. "You did good today." She shook her head. "They did good. I just showed up." He leaned in and kissed her cheek, just beside the scar. And for the first time since the beginning of her fall, Olivia didn't feel like she was covering anything up. She felt seen. She felt whole. And she knew this was not the end. It was the beginning. No face is worth your health. No wrinkle, no scar, no imperfection is worth hiding from life. You are not your age. You are your courage. Olivia Walker.